everyone. It is officially the holiday shopping season, and as is tradition for everybody who reviews or talks about products at all, it seemed appropriate that I take time to put together a list of stuff that I'm either looking at myself or am looking at for gifts for various people. And I think where I want to start is probably one of my go-to gifts for a lot of people is various flash drives, because really you can't quite go wrong giving someone a flash drive as long as you get something that you think they'll use and is of decent quality. This particular year, what I'm looking at is these two here. And I'll link the video reviews of both of these. And these are Teams 183 and 193 flash drives. And I'm also looking at, we have a micro SD card from them that there was an unboxing that went live a little while ago. And I don't have that here because it's in a piece of test equipment right now, but I'll bring a picture up of it. And these are great for a variety of people. If you have someone who is a beer connoisseur or just a kind of general handyman, the 183, it's got this built-in bottle opener. The body's all metal. It's got a small little scale on it that allows you to measure up to 4 centimeters. It's got a box cutter built into it, and it's magnetic. That is great. And that is the drive that I'm looking at for, my father or my brother and people who do that type of stuff. The 193 is a little bit more of an edge case. If you've got anybody who's a tinkerer, a crafter, they do that kind of stuff, they need to measure small things, it'll be to their advantage to have a small protractor. The 193 is a great option. These are both available sub $20, and even in multi-packs. I think I got a 3-pack of 64 gig ones for $25 to give away. So those are two items that I'm looking at for a lot of different people. Next up, students, teachers, be it middle school, high school, maybe not so much elementary school. I'm looking at things like the Okio Cam. And even professionals. So, here's my Okio Cam T that I was sent in for review. You'll notice that I've added a Velcro strap to it because this lives in my briefcase all the time. So if I have a product that I want to, or product or an item that I need to bring up and show to my boss, to the VP, to a client that I'm working with, I will grab this, plug it into my laptop, open it up, and then put the item under the document camera. So I've got the smaller one here that I don't carry around day to day, just because if I'm going to carry one, if I'm going to buy one, I'm going to use the big one. But I'm going to unfold this one really quick. And it's just this simple. So I fold it up like this, and I throw what I'm showing to the client, be it a document, be it a piece of hardware, one of these flash drives. Hey, here's your burned out PCI card that I pulled out of the server after I fixed it. These are fantastic for that kind of stuff, and that's part of why the big one has a Velcro strap, because the one thing they didn't get right on these is the cable management. I might get a neoprene sleeve for it eventually. So these are good for that. They're great for students. Take your work, put it under the camera, show it to the teacher. Teacher can use it the same way they would an overhead projector, send the Okio Cam to the whole classroom and Zoom or Teams or any of those. Another thing that we have, the unboxing for this isn't live yet, but when it is, I'll link to it in the description in the article, is this. And you can actually see the larger model over here in the corner, although I'm not sure if you can read the text just at the angle that it is. But this is the Boogie Board Blackboard. These are great little tablets, especially paired with the document camera, because I can write on it, and then when I'm done, I hit the button and it erases, which if I'm recording or if I'm hitting the button to take still images, I still get the data out of it. They've got a lot of nifty features with things like selective erase, a lock button to stop it from accidentally recording not accidentally recording, but accidentally erasing your work. Good battery life. They just use off-the-shelf coin cells, which was an issue with some of the older boogie boards, that you couldn't replace the battery, although those were a fair bit cheaper than these. I want to say those were sub 20. So the boogie boards, the letter size one is in the $30 to $50 range, depending on who you're buying it from on Amazon. The note size one, I believe, is in 20 to 30. And then the Okio cams, I want to say the big one is 90 and the small one is $70. Personally, I don't see a ton of market for the small one, with the larger one just having a bigger camera, a better workspace, and more flexibility. If I'm going to do it, I'm just going to buy the 5 megapixel model. I'm not going to buy the 3. And I get it. If you are on an absolute budget, especially for the students, that does make sense to them to have big model or both models. Although I would have liked to have seen a bigger price spread between them. You know, at another $20, this isn't a huge premium for this one compared to this one. Although it is just big enough where I can say, teachers, college kids, high school students, this is the one you want. High school students, middle school students, this is the one you want. You know, professionals, anyone who might throw a document, a drawing under here, engineers, that type of people, there's no reason to buy the smaller one. Odds are you make enough money doing what you do for that. All right, so, and as you can see, I'm using the boogie board. I wrote down the things that I want to talk about here. When I'm done, I'm going to hit the button. It's going to be a clean slate. I forgot to mention, they do have different inserts. You can change what you're doing, be it a dot grid or lined paper or planners or just a blank slate. You can also remove that and put them over an item and draw on an item. And they've got a basic document scanning app available for saving what's been written on them. Next item, I don't really have any good items to show on. Well, I've got one, is smart home stuff. Usually goes on sale this time of year. Personally, I'm looking at products from 4 different brands for 4 different things. First one is a company called Yeelight. They make some really fantastic RGB lights, but they do tend to be on the pricier side. I've got 3 of them, and they were about $20 to $30 per bulb. Great bulbs, especially if you're someone who likes to tinker with things. They've got a web interface. You can control them from a PC. You can do custom stuff on a Raspberry Pi to talk to them. And it's an open API, so they've got a bunch of features there. And I would really love to have 4 or 5 E-lights for my studio lighting so I can do things like color controls, tone control, brightness adjustment. Although there are other ways to do those type of things. So E-light's one of them, a little bit on the pricier end. If those things go on sale for $10 a piece, I'm sure they'd sell out of the whole stock. Sengled is actually who most of the lights in my house were purchased from. I usually pick up the Sengled bulbs. They do have some RGB bulbs. They're not quite as advanced as the E-lights. They also have lots of just basic dimmable single tone bulbs, and you can get them under $10. They have a kit that comes with a hub and 2 bulbs for typically under 30. That's what I started with, was maybe I'll like these, and I got that. Although I wasn't doing product videos. I didn't take time to talk about those because I got them as an open box from the Amazon warehouse. And then when we purchased our house, I proceeded to buy Sengled bulbs for almost every room in the house, except for, a couple of rooms where I have the E-lights where I really want the RGB control. So Sengled, great bulbs, dimmable, voice controllable through Google Home or Alexa, and they just work. You pair them. There's a little Zigbee hub, which I believe if you watch Matt's video or read his article, is a more energy efficient way to do things than the E-lights, which all of mine are Wi-Fi connected, since there's less power used for the communications overhead. But they're a little bit more closed off. They use their own hub. Third company, TP-Link's Casa. Paul reviewed one of their power strips, which I'm glad I saw that before I reached out to them, because Casa had been on my list of companies that I wanted to contact for a long time. I have a ton of Casa stuff at work. I have a bunch of their little smart plugs, just the single outlet smart plugs. I've looked at their strips, although they're usually cost prohibitive. They're one that I'm looking at. Their Black Friday stuff, I've seen some of them already show up 20-30% off on the strips, although what's available by the time this video goes live, I won't know. So I'm definitely looking at their stuff. I've used them for all sorts of different things. I use them to control various plug-in appliances. I've used them to control Christmas trees. I use the individual Casa plugs at my office to automate turning some screens on and off for digital signage. When I put in new projection units in our operations center, I actually put Casa plugs in between each PC and the wall because they're 30 feet in the air. So if I have to restart that, if it hard locks for any reason, well, I have the Casa plug there, and I can open up the app and just turn it on, off and on. Fourth item is just general smart home appliances. You know, things like the Google Home Minis I've seen are on sale. Amazon always does a crash sale on all their Alexa devices. I personally purchased one of these. This is actually a gift for my daughter, but don't let her watch this video. Or fortunately, she doesn't watch these typically. They're not her thing. I'm not playing Minecraft or anything like that in most of my YouTube videos, so they're of no interest to children. This is the Smart Clock Essential. This is a great one for kids, actually. It's a little bit pared down from the original Lenovo Smart Clock. Still has the USB port. Has a built-in night light function. And she has a smart bulb in her bedroom, but she has no device in there to control it with. She's got to yell out to the living room to use it. So she tends not to do very much with it. I think she will with this, and then, you know, basic stuff. She'll use it as an alarm clock. These are, I don't know if they still are, they were on sale at Walmart for $20. And even if you have no other smart home stuff, an alarm clock that has a light built in and provides a USB charging port for a phone, for a smartwatch, for whatever USB device you may use it for, is a good deal. This is not the one that I was hoping Lenovo would launch this year. I have the original smart clock, and what I really wanted to see was a couple more USB ports on the back and, you know, like a quick charge port, a QC 3.0. And that's not to say that this is a bad device, but it just wasn't what I was hoping for. So another item, and we'll grab, I think I've got one here. Although this is, you know, not specifically saying these are the only guys to look at. Another item that I'm always looking at for the holiday season is SSDs and storage in general. So there's a couple of companies that I would keep an eye on. You know, brands that we've reviewed, brands that I've purchased, and been happy with the items. And it really depends on what market segment you're in as to who you want to look at. So we've got some stuff coming up on Seagate's Iron Wolf 125, and that is a big NAS drive, and is just not price per gigabyte competitive with consumer drives. I mean, I've had a client who paid $400 per drive because they're going in a server, and I need the 1 drive wipe per day endurance, and I need the power loss protection. On the other hand, you can get a 2 terabyte MX500 for half that. And I told him that, you know, if he really needed to be the minimum amount of budget that he could, those work. And I've used them in servers before, although never with as low of a drive count as 4. I've got a server with 14 of them, where the endurance for the individual drives isn't as big of a concern. And it's also not a primary server, it's a backup server. The primary server in that environment has Intel drives. Anyway, I've gone off topic. So basically, SSDs, there's a couple of brands I would keep an eye on. I mentioned the Iron Wolf 125. If you're looking at network storage, that's a fantastic drive for various NAS units. They also have this cheaper Iron Wolf 110, which is slightly derated. It doesn't have quite as much overhead provisioned in it for endurance and performance reasons. Hynix, Paul reviewed a Hynix SATA drive. I've reviewed, or I'm working on the review. I've done all my testing of this P31 NVMe drive. Everybody's happy with them. There's a couple of oddities on the NVMe that I think come down to Hynix used their own controller and a board layout that's a bit different than other companies, but nothing bad as far as that's concerned. I've already mentioned Micron. Their MX500s are a good drive to look at, as are the P2 and the P5. I would steer away from the P1. That's a QLC device, and although there are applications for QLC, if it's an internal drive for a system, be it a gaming system, client, desktop, or high-end server, those just aren't where the P1 belongs, and I think they're phasing it out in favor of the P2, which is TLC. And I, as always, our annual favorite, Mushkin, always has drives at various price points and capacities. I would definitely keep an eye out for those. I will put a link to a few different drives in the description that catch my eye when I see what the sale prices are, and I'll probably elaborate some of the brands in the full article that will eventually accompany this video. Let's see, what else have we got? Viotech. We don't have the review for this live yet, but I did do the unboxing. Viotech has sent in, this will be the second panel, this P16C. I've already seen this for about 30 bucks off, making it $120 to $130. This is a fantastic device, and we'll just open up the Pocketables website here so I can power it on while I'm talking about it. And so as you can see, this is a USB controlled monitor. My phone has a couple of limits on what it can do as far as the brightness before it just doesn't output enough power via USB-C. Although I've had no issues driving it 100% on my ThinkPad's Thunderbolt port, which I used this last week at a client site when I was doing training. I sat down, I plugged it into my desktop, and we did the social distance thing, flipped it around, put it in front of the guy, and then walked through everything we were talking about. If you're the kind of person who needs a second monitor that they can take places, if you're someone like me I've used this monitor for news records as second screen on my laptop, this is probably actually going to be my permanent studio monitor, and live here in the studio or live in my bag, where if I'm working on a desktop or something, I can power this via USB-C and plug an HDMI cable into it and call it good without having to drag a 27-inch panel into the studio. So this one I've already seen is on sale. There are other panels I've seen a couple of sale prices on. We had a news article on, but did not have a review. I don't know if I'm going to get this one, of their 27-inch 4K 144Hz IPS super panel. I've seen that down at $500. If you're the kind of person who does video work and games and needs a good quality panel with a good calibration on a budget, that's a really tempting looking panel, especially at $500. I would have no second thoughts purchasing that particular panel for the video editor at my day job or someone of that nature. I mean, unless we suddenly have Disney Pixar budget and I can justify a $4,500 Pro Art from Asus. So panels in general are things I would look at. I do like this particular Viotech panel, especially for that Road Warrior on-site type thing. Panel has to go in the bag, gets moved around. And there's a couple of other brands that make panels like this, although this is the only one that I have in person. Yeah, there's an Arico enclosure that we looked at. That wouldn't be a bad item for people for gifts. But anyway, if you know someone like that, this makes an excellent gift. If you are that person, this is the time of year to look at buying one. Next item up, that I would look at, and this is a very narrow type gift, is I've been particularly pleased having this pocket meter. And this is just a little Bluetooth connected multimeter that I can take out, and I can check the voltage on things, and I can check the amperage on small stuff, and it's got an oscilloscope built into it, and it's got a thermocouple inside it. Although I wish it had a thermal probe, it doesn't have that. Fantastic little meter. I've used it on PC stuff. I'm still trying to figure out how to properly review this, and I may have to just get a couple of known value resistors and measure them, and maybe a known voltage power source, or compare it to something else, since I've got another meter that I have to do a review on as well. But anyway, so this is the Pocket Meter. There's a Pocket Meter Pro. I don't know if that's been released yet. Very happy with this particular item. If you've got somebody who likes to tinker on stuff, likes to do small low voltage things, you know, Raspberry Pis, Arduino, the kind of guy who builds all of those things, this is a good meter for them. I will say there are two caveats there. Obviously, it's not a fluke. You don't want to give it to your uncle who's an electrician. It's also limited to 60 volts. So if you're a general purpose handyman, you're dealing with line voltage AC, that type of stuff, this is not going to be the meter for you. That's in my tool bag. We did look at another Bluetooth connected meter that was kind of on that entry level from General. And I'll link to the whole unboxing of that. And that is in my tool bag as well, that I've taken on site to evaluate it next to my larger Mastac 8229, where I do need to measure equipment that I don't know the voltage on. So I didn't necessarily want to break my pocket meter. This is currently, apparently I don't see any sale prices on these. These are like 90 bucks. Good little meter, especially if you need the Bluetooth connectivity. I mentioned that General meter, which is a completely different tool. It doesn't live in my briefcase. This lives in my briefcase. But anyway. So next item up, this is one, once again, I've used this as a gift for various people who were enthusiasts about network equipment and really excited about some of the stuff that they'd seen me install on site. You've seen me open up their bigger equipment, and that would be MikroTik's Map Lite. And these are the smallest units that MikroTik sells. They're usually between 30 and 50 bucks, depending on if it's the larger micro unit that has multiple network ports, or just the single Ethernet jack with access point model. And there'll be links to those and a couple of the larger ones on the bottom. These are fantastic if you're looking at learning network stuff, you want to play around with all these features, because they come with a license level, I believe, of 4. Which is enough to get yourself in trouble with all the hardware that's in there, and well above and beyond what you can actually do in the hardware side. But you can do all the things. You can set up a DHCP server, you can set up an access point, you can set up BGP, you can set up a VPN, you can use SSTP, L2TP, PPTP, tunnels, you can do all the different encryptions, you can do all the stuff without having to have the big $1,000 CCR that I used at client sites, or the $1,000 48 port PoE switch, or even the $300 24 port PoE switch. So these are great little devices, and if you see them on sale for Black Friday, or just discounted during the holiday season, they're fun things to play with if you're the kind of person that likes network technology, or for the network admin that you may know. Last item, which is always a big one for, what do we get Dad this year? Well, you buy him tools. I went through that line of general tools, and I'll link the video instead of going through all of them one at a time for when I unbox everything. And I'm still working on individual reviews for each unit, but basically most of their Tool Smart lineup is perfectly fine. The one that I had issue with is the flashlight camera. The borescope is a fantastic little camera. I've already gotten some requests to do things like check it inside an engine block. I gotta see if I can borrow somebody's lawnmower because I want to use the mirror on that, and I don't want to risk potentially knocking that off in my car that I have to drive. Anyway, so that works great. I've used the angle finder. I think you saw me use it when I reviewed the T193. And I've used it for general other things, you know, the type of stuff you use an angle finder for. The moisture meter, I haven't had as much use for. It measures the moisture in an object. That's great. If you're the type of person who's going to lay concrete, it's a fantastic thing to do. I've heard back from people who work at places that sell, you know, hydraulic tubing and stuff like that, that they use the moisture meter. So it is a good meter. I've heard people actually use it in industry. I just haven't had as much purpose for it. The laser measuring one, I have a couple of demonstrations coming up using it to measure the distance between instruments and microphones for musical setup, that kind of stuff. So all of those things are great. Other tools that I'm particularly happy with is I've got this lithium-ion powered screwdriver set. I've also got a couple of tools from Tack Life. Although I haven't seen them available for sale. I have a Tack Life screwdriver that complements my Klein screwdriver here. The thing looks like they made it with the same mold. And maybe they did, and that's why it's not in production anymore. Or at least not available anymore. These little Klein 4-in-1s are fantastic little screwdrivers. The Tack Life just was a little bit better for my day-to-day, since this stops at Phillips 0 and that goes up to Phillips 1, which is a lot more useful when you're working on laptops than Phillips 0 all the time. Anyway, so these little lithium-ion screwdriver sets, you can get them for about $30, $40. You've seen me use this in plenty of videos. It's got all the different bits. This particular one's from a company called Creation Space, which I don't think is actually, you know, who made it or a real company. There are 100 different variants of this exact driver on Amazon. And I will link one that is available for a reasonable price in the description. Anyway, so that brings me to one thing that's not on my list, and that is power. Not as big of a deal in 2020, but, you know, if this was 2019, I would tell you to buy people power banks because, and my wife still manages to do this, even though we don't leave the house a whole ton. People forget to charge their phones when they need charged. All the quick charge in the world doesn't do any good if the charger's in the other room. So power banks are always a good gift. There's a couple of brands that I like that I've looked at. I've been happy with everything I've looked at from Zendur. Another company whose power bank I have that I absolutely love is a company called Chargy. I should check. I don't think I ever actually posted a video on that. I need to go make good on that because they're a small company. They're actually a U.S. company. They're in Ohio, and they do full customization on their power banks. Theirs are particularly exciting because they are AC adapters at the same time. There are USB prongs that you unfold, you plug the power bank in, and then it has 2 USB ports on it that you can charge things with. It also has built-in cables. And I think they discontinued the micro USB version in favor of just standardizing on one Type-C and one Lightning connector. So Android and iOS, and they include a little Type-C to micro USB dongle. So there it is. That is the technical gadgetry that I am looking at as far as gifts and purchases for this holiday season is concerned. You know, some of the items I showed, I already have purchased duplicates of for gifts or are actually gifts. But, you know what? There's one I forgot. And I'm pretty sure I recommend this one every year. And this is a great year for it. especially with so many people in various lockdowns. If you or someone you know is a musician or is learning to play instruments, the Jamstick Smart Guitars are an excellent tool. And this one, I've got to look. I think I made a video of this and then never finished reviewing the 7. I know I did the smaller one before. And I think there's a larger 9-fret version off the top of my head. But these are the Jamsticks. They connect to a PC or an Android device via Bluetooth. This one uses, I believe, AA batteries. Yeah, it uses 4 AA's. There's a couple of versions that use internal lithium-ion batteries. This one can also be plugged into a PC. Oh, I already mentioned, USB or Bluetooth. And they've got web apps. They've got apps for Android. You can go along and learn how to play your instrument. And it has real guitar strings in it, not plastic. They've got a magneto-optical pickup in the bridge here, and then conductive pads on the whole neck. So these are fantastic items, especially this year. If you've got a student who has been trying to learn to play things, they're an excellent option. Available on Amazon. It looks like this one, there's specifically a guitar trainer edition that comes with an additional carrying case and a small snap-on that makes it more guitar shaped for about $200, which I know isn't necessarily cheap, but musical instruments are always an expensive one. So this is an excellent one for people looking to learn to play, just looking to practice on the go. A lot more compact than carrying a whole guitar with you. And at $200 for it with the carrying case and that additional screw-on bracket, that's not bad. And yeah, the batteries in there are still good. They haven't leaked and it hasn't been on in a while. So that's the Jamstick 7. And there'll be links to it and some of its larger siblings in the description. Anyway, as I was saying, those are the things that I'm looking at myself. Some of these, like I mentioned, are gifts for people, and some of these are things that I'm looking at myself just to purchase. I would love more, RGB lights, so I would love to see if Yeelight has a sale. The Okio cams are definitely one that I've looked at for purchasing for work, and I'm always interested to see a good deal on various storage products myself, or some of the MikroTik gear, because it helps to have more pieces when you want to test stuff. All of that said, closing out, first thing I want to do is ask you, comment what items you see in here that you wish maybe I had done a fuller review on that I did, or what items did you see that you're looking to purchase this year. And if you have any questions on specific items, I mentioned SSDs, and I said I'd throw a few in the description. But if you have a question about a model, let me know in the comments below, and we'll help you. And I also want to thank anyone who uses our Amazon affiliate links or helps support us on Patreon. It is support like that that helps make content like this possible. And then I want to thank Electrix for providing our opening and closing themes. And finally, thank you for watching.